Do you support the high stakes testing that is aligned to the Arizona College and Career Standards and required for Race to the Top funding? Why or why not? Well, I wouldn't be very consistent with myself if I said that I did. The high stakes testing are aligned with Common Core standards, and of course, there seems to be consensus here that, at least at this table, that we are opposed to Common Core. So it's difficult to support high stakes testing in that context. As a general matter, I think testing is good. Testing gives us a lot of very good information about what our students are doing and how they're performing. There's a lot of feedback, important feedback. Many of you, I think, are educators in this room, and you understand how important the testing process is. Testing is not just a measurement, it's also a learning process in and of itself. You know, when you're taking a test, you obviously have to prepare for that test, and that forces you to focus on the things that are most important. So testing, as a general matter, is a good thing, and it's a necessary process to education. But the biggest problem for me with the high stakes testing associated with Common Core is that Common Core, that the testing dictates the curriculum. If we have to pass certain kinds of tests, if we have to give our kids certain kinds of tests or certain kinds of material, they're expected to have certain kinds of knowledge that's tied to these standardized tests, then that drives the curriculum, and it makes it much, much more difficult for individual school districts for local control of the curriculum. Under Common Core, the theory is that local jurisdictions will retain control over their curriculum. But if they're having to teach to a high-stakes test, and it's a standardized test, then that test drives the curriculum. And to me, that is the biggest problem with it and why I am so strongly opposed. Thank you.
Well, I agree. It's kind of a little bit of a redundant question given we already just talked about Common Core, but I as well would oppose high-stakes testing. I am concerned again about the cost of these tests. I'm also concerned for teachers. When you look at their performance being tied to these high-stakes tests, then I think they might be motivated to teach to the test, which would then possibly leave out some of the core curriculum that we need to be teaching our kids. So teaching to the test, I think, would be a problem. I get concerned that teachers who have their performance tied to these high-stakes tests could be evaluated unfairly because the performance of the students based on those that are in the classroom possibly have some different demographics in those classrooms, and maybe those students don't do as well, and that teacher then suffers as a result of having the high-stakes test tied to their performance. So I'm opposed to high-stakes testing, and I don't think we have the money to pay for this kind of testing, so I'd be opposed to it.
I support the existing Ames testing, the college entrance exams, the SATs, PSATs, ACTs, testing that's been around for a long, long time and has proven itself well. As we speak here, the man that was in charge of putting Common Core together, the standards, David Coleman, he's moved over to the scholastic boards and the colleges and is putting together the new entrance exams. They're aligning those entrance exams to Common Core standards. So they're making a seamless transfer from their standards over to colleges and driving colleges to accept those tests. And that's going to, every kid's not bound for college, and that's what they're shooting for. It's a lot of money in the game here. Standardized testing kind of gets teachers to teach the test. There'll be teachers teaching the test, and that'll be at the expense of other learning. The other thing, not to beat a dead horse, testing is expensive. We have a $2 million shortfall we're trying to solve, and we're having to pay for Common Core, and now they're testing. That's a test across every grade, across 5,000 students. And if it's $25 to $30, it becomes serious money. I'm against high-stake testing. It's too much pressure on the children also. Every year, it's just too much. So I propose going back to the old method, and if we need to change our testing, let Arizonans figure it out. Thank you very much.
Well, on this one, one question we certainly all seem to agree, and I can say ditto, ditto, ditto. Thank you very much. Seriously, I am against the high stakes testing as well. We don't even know what the test is going to be. It's already, we're heading into October. It's undue pressure on kids and teachers. It's undue pressure. We're drowning in tests. We have some very good formative testing here and now. Ames does need to be elevated. I think the cut score on Ames is too low. Therefore, when you compare our Ames scores to NAEP, which is the National Assessment of Educational Progress, we fall far short. We can use what we have, we can elevate it, but I do not agree with putting additional pressure on our students and teachers. From what I understand, it will be hours and hours of testing. I do not like the fact that, people would be teaching to the test, and especially with such short notice. There is a great deal of expense involved in this. Park assessment, right now there are 6 different assessments being evaluated by our state. 2 of them I'm a little more familiar with, and that's Park, and that's $29.50 per student. Smart Balance is $27.50 per student. I don't want to see any more money coming out of our classrooms. We need to work with what we have. We need to elevate it. The cut score is too low on Ames. But right now, again, it's pretty moot because we are not in control of that. Our legislators are going to be in control of that. So we need to have listening ears from our legislators. We need to look at this very carefully. We do have some very good things in place right now with Prescott. I proposed, and it didn't go too far, a moratorium on testing. But if we put a moratorium on testing, we will be docked 10% in our funding. This is a hammer over our head that doesn't make me feel comfortable.